The important thing is timing. Things are an ever-evolving situation, and it's not evolving in a great way at the present moment. So what I would suggest is that you make some tough choices now to make life easier later. Now, don't be complacent. If at the moment everyone's still paying their rent and everything's hunky-dory, don't just assume it's going to carry on that way. Make some decisions as you know, from your analysis, that there is going to be, in all likelihood, a proportion that isn't paid. So make some decisions around that now, around that preservation of your capital in the short term, to mean that you are in a better situation a month, 2 months from now. So in our opinion, we think we're going to have a short, sharp shock in the UK economy. We reckon maybe 60, 90 days, nothing's really going to happen. There's going to be a bit of a slowdown, obviously, coming out the back of it as well. But we just need to make sure that we take action in the real short term to mean that we can get through the next 60 to 90 days as easily and as pain-free as possible. Yeah. So yeah, I think actually a lot of looking to China, to Italy, seeing what's happened there is actually... I find that a lot more helpful than just getting involved in the news here all the time, because then at least you're like looking at a model that's, yes, it will be different because we're different and the way we're behaving is different, but there will be some similarities. So I'm finding that quite useful as a method of dealing with it. So in terms of course of action, I think what is important is a real blend of decisive action taking and also stillness, calm. So it's easy just to think, well, there's a crisis, we must panic, we must work hard and do everything we can, but actually there's only so much action taking that you can really do. A big part of this and being a leader is actually just stopping, reflecting, thinking to make the right action. So we've got plenty of stuff that we could be doing, but yesterday morning I spent a good couple of hours just sitting out here in the sunshine, just thinking, just reviewing all the stuff that I've heard, the things that we're doing, is there anything we haven't considered? And actually out of the back of that, I for one felt a lot calmer, and that's really important for me as the person driving the business forward and navigating this time, but also some thoughts about considerations that we hadn't maybe had, and also being able to do this, like to be in the position to be helping wonderful people like yourselves who are on here and sending lovely comments, thank you. So that's important. So don't just feel like you need to be doing stuff all the time. Find your calm.
We're big proponents of headspace. The more you've got going on, the more headspace is being taken up, even if it's not you doing it. If you've got a great team, you've got other people doing stuff, it doesn't necessarily put things out of your headspace. And the more going on in your headspace, the less brain space you've got available to be just making good, solid, calm decisions, to be kind of mulling things over, to be making sure you're really aware of everything. And I think in this circumstance, we are in a period of very much turmoil. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where we're going to be in a month's time. And you should really reassess what you had planned to be doing right now. So the course of action you decided 2 weeks ago for how the next month was going to go is not the course of action that you should be forging ahead with. Because actually you've got a lot of kind of extra stuff that's going to be on your plate, dealing with the extra kind of everything we're talking about here. That's another whole load of jobs on your list we've just shoved there for you. So don't just take it on and just forge on. Take the space, start looking at your current priorities and reassess them. Reassess those priorities, move things off the list so I can push that back, get that out of the way, give yourself the time to not just deal with this well, deal with all the stuff we're talking about well, but also have the headspace to then reflect on things and keep yourself a bit calm during this time as well. One of the ways we're dealing with coronavirus as a whole is we're actually considering it as an entirely new project. For us, coronavirus is a project. It's just another project to be managed. So we've created, in our task management systems, we've created coronavirus projects. We've created coronavirus teams in our chat so that we when we talk about anything related to this, all these cash flow things, it's all going into its own isolated area, the same as every other part of our business. It really helps to keep control of it, treat it in a way like you would any other part of your business. So really separate it out. Don't just kind of let it overwhelm you and become integrated into all parts of your business. This is just one other thing to deal with, and know that you're taking on another project, so you might have to remove a previously considered project to give yourself the time and space to do it.
I think our main concern in this area is is the surveying side, so the valuation side. I think that's probably the biggest unknown, because I actually feel pretty good about the banking situation at the moment, and they're in pretty good shape now. And so from a lending point of view, they've also had the banks have had to build up a bigger buffer now to be more resilient, and actually that what they have to hold in reserves, they've been able to release a part of that to stimulate the economy. So I actually feel pretty good from a bank lending point of view. I don't think that part of it's necessarily going to be a problem, but I think how surveyors may value things is the problem.
I mean, the RICS website is doing it's a very similar thing to what it did back when Brexit became an issue, and just putting out the standard sentences that they're going to want all their valuers to be able to use when a valuer or surveyor is wanting to be more cautious with their valuation. There are set sentences and things that they are able to put into their valuations to say, this is the reason I'm being cautious. So that RICS are providing those tools for valuers to use, but that doesn't mean they're being used yet. So that's the key thing here, is just being alive to how the valuations are happening in your area. I have regular chats with our mortgage broker.
There?
Oh yeah, who's here with us?
Hey, Martin.
I have regular chats with Martin just to keep abreast of the current situation, and I ask him how our valuations at the moment are there, and is there anything changing in the market that you can see a kind of ripple effect from coronavirus? Is there anything that's going to that you think could cause an impact to valuations in our area? And I just try and keep abreast of that so that we can then keep inputting that dialogue, that information into our plans, and keep alive to the market until I actually see valuations being downvalued or having problems. I intend to continue with our plans as they are, and then as soon as we start to see potential problems coming into that area, as there have been sometimes in the past, we'll then review our plans and see how we mitigate those issues.
So the model that we do, we buy blocks of flats, we usually refurbish them, and then we refinance them within 3 to 6 months after purchase. And there's two different routes. The route that we've usually taken is that we use one surveyor on purchase to give us a valuation. So that we have one surveyor come in on purchase and give us a valuation, and then after the work's been completed, a new surveyor will come out, reassess, and give us the valuation based on the new works being done. Now, generally, we found that this works better for us than having one valuation up front, where they give the valuation for the purchase and for the refinance. But actually, my strong feeling at the moment is that it's definitely the right way to go for the all-in-one before purchase, so that you have got that clarity and that some degree of certainty on the valuation that the banks will be lending at on day one, and sort of after 90 to 180 days.
What our broker said to us about what the most likely initial impact of this scenario will be on valuations, it's most likely going to be affecting not necessarily the value they give, but it might affect the number of days they give for how long it will be for resale and for letting of the property. So normally you're looking for kind of 3 to 6 months on those particular areas, and the banks are happy with that. At 3 to 6 months they'll lend happily, but if that starts going above that to 9 to 12 months, the banks start to get a bit more itchy-feeted, they start to get a bit more worried, and then likely the first step they'll likely do at that point is to reduce your loan to value. So if you're going for 75%, they might say, yeah, we're fine to lend, but it'll be 70% at this point. So just that type of thing, being aware of it, that might be one of the implications for you. It might be valuations come absolutely, but you might need that extra 5% equity ready to go in the bank. So again, comes back to our whole concept of getting your cash reserves built up and having a good buffer there to cover any situation.
Refurbs and development. So if you have a refurb going on at the moment, let us know if you've got a refurb happening right now. So probably your biggest risk at this point is your builders having to self-isolate, so that could be a risk. You might be able to manage it on site in some way in terms of having people in isolated rooms. I don't know, it's a bit crazy. But I guess cash flow again is on here, just managing the cash flow of the project particularly carefully. You might find that you just have to extend the timeline on it, but then that just happens sometimes, just making sure that you've got the cash in place to be able to do that.
And coming back to our community, if you're on a bridge and you're doing bigger projects, bigger development works, just making sure you're aware that timeframes could be extended, and you should get talking to your lender ASAP, just about maybe nothing to do with trying to get holiday on payments or anything, or just about maybe what happens if and I want to extend my term from 12 months to 14 months or something. Try and get those conversations happening as soon as possible, so you're being really proactive about it.
For us doing refurbs, I feel less nervous than if I was doing developments, because we have many less parties involved in it, so there's less chance for delays. But that's one of the reasons we don't really do developments anyway, because that's not a part of it that we actually enjoy, but that, I would say, does increase the risk. So if I was looking at developments at this point, I probably would be wanting to push the time frame back a bit further.